it's getting there. And so this study is really powerful in that aspect. So I wanted to look into it a little more deeply, right? And so I'll upload the marked up version. It's a little easier to read. But I first was mostly curious about the methodology. And I was right yesterday when I said that it was probably a small sample set because they had 97% saying that they were using mail. Some astounding. That summary was in the San Francisco Examiner. Picked up the press release. But anyway, so 158 means that roughly 4 people to get that 97%. 4 or 5 people said they weren't using mail. And so I do suspect that. I would like to talk to the people who did the survey in a little more depth. I do suspect that this was perhaps based on NAPCO's clients or something like that, or people who recognize the name NAPCO who responded to the survey, their email list or something, because they have a history of being a direct mail, at least, if not proponent, at least, they would do news stories about it. And they had the Who's Mailing What for a while. I think that was NAPCO. I know Denny Hatch had something to do with it. Anyway, a lot of senior management. That's another signal to me that it was more of a first-party data list, because basically almost 80% of the respondents were either CEO or CMO or equivalent. The industries were mainly retail, with a bit of manufacturing and tech solutions, so about half of that. There was something else. This was a really interesting line, and I should make this bigger, but again, you probably have to go get the study. I didn't want to reformat the study. They said, we struggled to find marketers with budgets over 10 million who were not already using the mail channel in their marketing mix. Well, it sounds like they struggled to find anybody who wasn't using, it didn't matter the size. If the 80-20 applied and let's say only 20% of the 153 were over 10 million, that would put it at, 35 or something, 40. And yeah, maybe there was one that didn't use mail in that group. That would be about right. So, we got about 1 in each fifth. So the other 80%, yeah, we have more. Again, sometimes these numbers that get hyped are just a result of the way numbers are. But then they mention that mail has grown 5% between 2020 and 2021 and is expected to be up in 2022. See, there was marketing budgets. Email has been expanded the most. I'm impressed that direct mail is in it, because so often when I look at marketing budget allocation, mail isn't even listed. So it's not, great that it is used and expanding, and it's 86% are either increasing or staying the same. It's interesting in this left column, the red column, that email is increasing, social media is increasing, influencer marketing is increasing, paid search is increasing. 51%. So all of those are increasing more than mail, or all the marketers. More marketers are saying they're increasing those budgets. It'd be interesting what the date was on the survey. I did look around for the date and see if it was pre-recession fears or post. Hard to say. A lot of questions, raises a lot of questions. Why do you use mail? The most popular answer was that it's a legacy channel. It still works. But the second biggest was it's scalable. And I think that is one of the key issues right now, is that digital, you're basically riding someone else's coattails. You have very little control, over who sees the ad or how high it is ranked on the page, or um, you know what the influencer really has to say about your product, things like that. Very little control. Direct mail, you have much higher control. Um, so they talk about response rates and such, but a lot of that comes from the USPS, and it's a little hard to verify. This one was interesting. That self mailers were ahead of postcards. That doesn't, I don't know. I would say as an entry, gateway drug, I would say postcards are probably the most common. But if you test between the two, probably you will get better return on investment on the self mailer. And catalogs, are just difficult to build, I would say. And so I'm not surprised that catalogs are the last in format. Although when you really add up the improved or stayed the same direct mail success, the self mailer has grown, and that's another good entry point. But the rest of them are about equal. So I don't see any big superiority. This was a good one. Direct mail and catalogs are the most comfortable form of advertising. Why is that? Possibly. Well, two things, I think. One is you can read it at your leisure, and the second is you can throw it away without guilt. Now, the other media you don't even have to throw away. It just goes away. So, that is, you don't even have to make a decision about other advertising. With the direct mail, you have to look at it and make a decision, right? It's a bad hair day on the motorcycle. But with direct mail, you can set it aside. You don't have to read it today, a lot of it. But eventually you want to read it. So ads on websites were annoying and one of the lower comfort levels, but people do go to websites to make decisions once they've decided, I guess, to execute the decision. And that's consistent with mail, moving people to the web, right, to actually make their purchases. Okay, this is there was a whole lot about legal issues, and I think that's important. There was some stuff about if you have an in-house team, what are your biggest challenges? Most mailers use an agency or use support, outside support, in production and in tracking and even in modeling. Most are moving to some sort of, most use demographic selections and also lead generation. What's interesting about that is that, when I really learned direct mail, we mostly rented lists, but rented lists are getting more difficult to negotiate. And I think that there's a market for that. I think that if you can generate names, you might make more money on your list than you would on your product sales. There was a long section by Brian Weaver about legal implications. It's worth a read, but I'm not going to delve into it. If we get to the bottom line on the whole thing, bottom line, the footnotes, the sources, I want to dig into the sources because there's some really good stuff in there, it looks like to me. But the conclusion is that direct mail is far from dead, and consumers enjoy mail interactions and trust the tangible media when making purchase decisions. Okay, so if you're, especially if you're a big brand and you want to look into mail, give us a call. Easy to find me on LinkedIn. You can even type in WDMA. You might get the Window Manufacturers Association or something like that. But you will also find us as a group, and feel free to reach out. Happy to talk for 15 minutes or so with anybody. Have a great day. Like and share. I'm not seeing a lot of shares. Maybe it's because I mentioned it too late in the show. Have a great day.